Hi everybody, my name is Danielle Nicole and welcome to Monetary Makeup. So Sephora has been dropping new products left, right, and center, so I did pick up a few things to review in today's video, the first of which is the new Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless Setting Powder. And I was also able to snag one of her mini Filmstar Bronze and Glow palettes. And Danessa Myricks just dropped a brand new shade in her contour balm in the shade Fair. So if you're excited to see how these products perform on my 30+ skin and you enjoy the video while you're watching, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up, and let's get started right now. So let's first go over a couple of quick details about these new releases. Now, the Danessa Myricks Balm Contour initially was released a few years ago now, I believe, and when I tested it out then, the only shade that I believe would suit my skin tone was the shade Light 1. And what I discovered was this formula is absolutely beautiful. Even though I have oily skin, I did find it sat beautifully on the skin. But unfortunately, the shade Light 1, it just ran very olive and yellow on my very fair, cool undertone. So I was so excited when I saw on Danessa's Instagram page that she released a brand new shade called Fair 1. Now, the wonderful thing about Danessa Myricks products is she is a professional makeup artist, so all of her products are absolutely beautiful and very easy to use. So even down to the packaging, this product has a push button and it opens up with a mirror on the opposite side of the product. So I'm really hoping that this shade will be more geared for fair, cool skin tones. Now, the other thing I really appreciate about Danessa's line is I do find her products to be pretty affordable, at least in comparison to other Sephora brands. Now, when it comes to the Charlotte Tilbury powder, I did only pick up the mini size just because I didn't have a ton of success with her beautiful skin foundation. It did look pretty nice on the skin, but it unfortunately broke me out pretty bad. So I picked up the shade Fair 1. Now, part of the reason I wanted to test out this powder is because it is the first time I've seen a powder that does not run too warm or too warm for my skin tone. Now, this mini Filmstar Bronze and Glow palette, it is not new, but I don't have a ton of Charlotte Tilbury products in my collection, so I decided to pick it up to test it out in today's video. Now, even though these products are the mini versions, I do find the packaging and the overall aesthetic to be quite nice. Next, let's get started with swatches. The first two swatches are the Bronze and Glow palette. Now, I'm not super excited about the highlighter shade. However, when it comes to the contour, I am excited about that. It appears to be a nice, fair, cool tone. The third swatch you may not be able to see on camera, but it is the Charlotte Tilbury powder, again in the shade Fair 1. And the final swatch is the brand new shade in the Danessa Myricks Balm Contour, again in the shade Fair 1. Now, just taking a look at the Balm Contour in Fair 1, I am a little bit disappointed. Now, I do think this shade is going to work much better than the shade Light 1, but it still has a slightly olive, almost yellow undertone to it. But you don't know till you test it out on the skin, so let's first get started with the Balm Contour. Now, the only makeup I have on so far, other than my eyeshadow, is foundation and concealer. Let's test out a new face brush to my collection. This is from Fenty Beauty, the Face 125. Now, these balms are very pigmented, so I definitely go in with a light hand to get started. Alright, so let's see how the shade Fair 1 looks on the skin. Yeah, can you see how I barely picked up any product? And look how much was on the brush. This product blends out so seamlessly, and it is quite beautiful on the skin. And then I usually just take my damp sponge and just blend out any harsh edges if there are any. Alright, so shade Fair 1 on the left cheekbone, nothing on this side. Yeah, these are so pigmented. And they are creamy, but I do find they last pretty well on the skin. Blend out pretty quick too. I just zoomed you guys in, that way you can see what my cheekbones are looking like. So what do you think about this new shade, Fair 1? I don't always go in with nose contour, but I do want to test it out, so let's do that next. Now, this may not pick up on camera, just because I do go for a more natural contour, but we'll see. These are so pigmented. Look at that. I mean, these are crazy pigmented. Definitely need to go over this with my damp sponge. And sometimes I take whatever is left just around the nostrils. I'm just going to take a little bit of the new Patrick Ta foundation in the shade Fair 1 just down the tip of the nose. I've really been loving this foundation, and you can spot conceal, use it to highlight. I find it quite versatile. So just a little bit down the center here, not too much. All right, so what do you guys think about the new shade Fair 1? I will say now that it is applied to the skin, I do quite like how it looks. Now, for whatever reason, these balm contours, they just pull a little bit olive and yellow on my skin tone. I'm not really sure why. It certainly has to deal with color theory. And it almost reminds me of when people with warm undertones go in with cool tone products. It can kind of just look a little bit muddy. So I feel like it looks nice, but I also feel like I'm just getting a little bit of muddiness, but let me know what you guys think. All right, so I just zoomed you guys in really close. That way you can see what my skin is looking like before I go in with any powder. Now it is about 80 degrees in my house. It has been the last couple of days, so you can certainly see my oils come through. So this will be a good test for the powder. All right, next let's go in with the Charlotte Tilbury powder. Again, in the fairest shade, Fair 1. And let's go in with the Wayne Goss number 3. Dipping in very lightly. So let's first set the under eyes, and then we can move on to the rest of the skin. Now I do have oily but dehydrated skin, so I'm pretty picky when it comes to my powder, so I will definitely let you know what I think about this. Now this powder is supposed to have those light reflecting pearls. You know, I see that so often in powders or setting powders, and I just don't really know what that actually means. It's supposed to bounce light off and blur everything, I suppose. But anyways, that is what is in this powder. So what do you guys think? No setting powder? Setting powder. So, I don't know, you guys. I think it looks okay. It doesn't look amazing. I do have a little bit of dryness right underneath the eyes, so it is clinging to that, but let's try a damp sponge next. I am really curious to see how this powder looks with a damp sponge, so let's see if there is any sort of a difference. I do think this eye looks much smoother than the brush side. Are you guys able to see a difference? So let's actually set the rest of the skin with a damp sponge, since that is my preferred application for under the eyes. Dipping in the butt of the sponge. I am quite shiny and glowy, so we'll see how much shine gets reduced. Now I did review the Westman Atelier Vital Skincare Pressed Powder. You know, I must be one of the only people that did not have any success with that powder. But every time I go in with that darn powder, it just clings to my dry patches immediately, and it just looks terrible. But this one is already looking much nicer, so I am happy about that. And the other thing about the Westman Atelier powder is when you go in with a damp sponge, it just doesn't pick up enough powder, I don't think. But this one is definitely picking up just the right amount. All right, let's set the rest of the skin. And I typically grab a line just like this and press it right underneath that contour. All right, so here's what the skin is looking like after setting it with the powder. So what do you guys think? Now, as far as what I think about this powder so far, I'm just not a fan of how it is sitting underneath the eyes. I do think it looks better on the side that I went in with a damp sponge. Definitely not a fan of how it looks with the brush, but on both sides, I just feel like it's emphasizing some of my fine lines. It's even almost sitting in those fine lines, and I just applied it. So overall, not a fan of the powder in that area, but I do quite like how it looks on the rest of the skin. I do think it did a pretty good job at blurring the skin, of course reducing the shine, so overall it looks pretty nice on the skin. When I tested out the Patrick Ta foundation and powder duo, now when I went in with this setting powder, I was really blown away with that powder, so as of right now, I do think I prefer the Patrick Ta over the Charlotte Tilbury. But before we jump into the wear test, let's play around with this mini Filmstar Bronze and Glow palette. I think I'm just going to use the same brush. So first, let's dip into the highlighter. Now this may be a little bit too deep for my skin tone, but let's see. Can't really see it, can you guys? Let's get some more. All right, so this is pretty. It's actually not too deep for my skin tone at all. Very pretty, natural, subtle highlight. Yeah, I do actually like that. Same thing on the other side. I just had a slight heart attack because I wasn't sure if I was recording. Ooh, that happens all the time. Definitely much more natural of a highlighter than I typically go for. But you know, they don't all have to be wham bam in your face highlighters. So yeah, quite like this. All right, next let's dip into the contour. I know I'm using the same brush, probably shouldn't, but oh well. So I'm just going to kind of set the Danessa Myricks product. All right, so I can already tell you, I really like this contour shade. It is the perfect true cool tone contour, but it's not too gray, has just the right amount of brown to it. Yeah, that is beautiful. Yeah, so I can already tell you that I would definitely repurchase this mini palette. I think it was only $25 or around that amount, and I do quite enjoy the highlighter. But this contour, it is so difficult to find true, fair, cool contours for my skin tone. So really enjoying this palette so far. Just take a little bit of that contour down the nose here. Let's put just a little bit of the highlighter down the tip of the nose or the bridge of the nose. All right, love this little palette. So happy I decided to pick it up. So now I will see you guys in a bit for my final thoughts and the wear test. All right, you guys, so I am back. It has been a couple hours later. I did want to jump on a bit early just because I have a lot of thoughts that I wanted to discuss with you. So let's have a little chat. So before I get into all of those thoughts, let me first show you what my skin is looking like so far. So I kind of need your guys' opinion on how this powder is sitting. We'll get into all the details about each of the products, but just in general, how do you guys think this powder is looking? So let's actually backtrack a bit and talk about the Danessa Myricks Balm Contour. So this formula, as I stated when I initially tried shade Light 1, it is just a beautiful formula. It melts into the skin, it's pigmented but not overly pigmented, it lasts all day on my skin. I really just love this formula. But the shades, there is just something about these balm contours. As I mentioned earlier, I just feel like they lean a little bit yellow, really more olive than anything. So if you do have an olive undertone, this might be a great product for you. But I just feel like this shade, it just leans just a little bit muddy. I think I can still get away with it, and overall looks quite nice. But when I'm really paying attention, just not a huge fan of these undertones. Now this little palette, the Filmstar Bronze and Glow, absolutely love this. It's affordable even though it is a miniature size. I love the highlighter. It gives a very nice natural sheen to the skin. And this contour, you guys, this is chef's kiss. If you have a fair cool undertone like me, this is the perfect contour shade. But where I start to have some mixed thoughts is with this Charlotte Tilbury powder. So I'm a little bit torn when it comes to this powder. Overall, do I think my skin looks quite nice? On the skin, yes, absolutely. I do feel like it looks beautiful in this area. But the under eyes, definitely not so much. So the first concern I have is with the under eyes. So because I am starting to get fine lines and I do have a little bit of dryness in that area, I just don't know if this would be the best powder if you have fine lines or any texture. Powders are kind of one of those things that you just have to try out and see for yourself. So overall, don't love it for the under eyes, but I do quite like how it looks on the rest of the skin. But after I applied this powder, there was one other powder that immediately came to my mind, and that was the Wet n Wild Bare Focus Finishing Powder. Now you guys know I typically don't take price into account when giving my reviews. I really just want to talk about the formula, have that discussion, and you can decide whether you think the product is worth the price or not. But this powder right here, despite it being under $6, this is a beautiful finishing powder. I reviewed this a few months ago, and this is my second one. I actually repurchased it. It gives me that same blurring effect of the pores that I remember having with the Wet n Wild. So overall, I'm kind of torn at whether I would recommend this or not. Now, one of the other things that I wanted to discuss is I feel like there are certain brands that really hype up and kind of over market their products. And I do feel like Charlotte Tilbury is one of those brands. I mean, look at how many of her products she says that they are going to give you magic skin, completely transform you. They really just overhype in their marketing. Now, I'm not picking on Charlotte Tilbury. There are certainly other brands that do that, especially Pat McGrath. As much as I love Pat McGrath, she definitely uses so many filters whenever showcasing her products. So I really think along with that comes a bit of disappointment when you actually do try these products out. So I do like this powder, but I just feel like because of the hype, I was just expecting to be blown away, and I wasn't. So again, no shade, absolutely love Charlotte Tilbury, love Pat McGrath products. It's just the marketing that can kind of go the wrong way with me. So let me know in the comments down below, do you guys have the same experience as me when it comes to marketing of these products? Have you tested any of these products out? And if you did, let us know what your experience was and all of your thoughts down below. So I feel like this is just one of those products that I'm going to have to play around with more before I really can give you my final thoughts. Now definitely make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the bell because I'm going to be having a ton of content coming your way, from beauty to fragrance, makeup, you name it, it's coming your way. I really hope you all enjoyed today's video. If you did enjoy the video, please don't forget to give it a big thumbs up. Thank you so much for spending your time with me, and I look forward to seeing you in my next video. Bye guys!